Good afternoon and welcome to the series debut of Mystery Blue Book. Very similar to the fashion of course, Mystery Unsolved and Mystery Ghost Stories. I will be talking about a particular topic. In this case, Mystery Blue Book has to do with UFOs. So, if you're into UFOs, stay right where you are, stick around, and listen to me discuss the debut case. If you're not into UFOs, and you might be, also stick around and listen to me talk about the opening debut case. If you're not into UFOs or aliens, notice I saved the alien part for the last the last thing. They go hand in hand. But if you're not into UFOs or aliens or the extraterrestrial, this probably isn't for you. Although I imagine if you're seeing me, then you know me, and you're not coming across me, right? Although maybe you're on YouTube, I don't know. In all typical YouTube, typical fashion, if you're not already, give me a subscribe, hit the like button, so that way anytime I go live, you can see it. I am, of course, streaming live from YouTube on my channel, Plasmatic Writer TV, and also on Facebook. So, hi, Facebook friends, and hi to the people that watch this on playback on YouTube, because I doubt anyone's watching live on YouTube. If you are, I apologize. Greetings. Without further ado, Mystery Blue Book. But what is the case? Am I starting with Roswell? Are you doing that, Justin? Are you leading off Mystery Blue Book with Roswell? I am not. Are you leading off with Area 51? I am not. That's too typical. You'd expect that. That might be later on. I am, of course, going to kick off Mystery Blue Book with the Kecksburg UFO incident. Those that are into UFOs, perhaps you have heard of the case. And for those of you that are not into UFOs, for those of you not familiar with the case, and you're not into UFOs, why are you still watching? I'm kidding. I'm just joking on myself. All right. Without further ado, Mystery Blue Book, the Kecksburg UFO incident. The Kecksburg UFO incident occurred on December 9th, 1965, at Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, when a fireball was reported by citizens of 6 U.S. states and Canada over Detroit, Michigan, and Windsor, Ontario. Astronomers said it was likely to have been a meteor bolide, burning up in the atmosphere and descending at a steep angle. NASA released a statement in 2005 reporting that experts had examined fragments from the area and determined that they were from a Soviet satellite, but that records of their findings were lost in 1987. NASA responded to court orders of Freedom Information Act requests to search for the records. The incident gained wide notoriety in popular culture and ufology, with speculation ranging from extraterrestrial crafts to debris from the Soviet space probe Cosmos 96, and is often called Pennsylvania's Roswell. So I guess it's been solved. Should I even go any further? Yes, I'm going to, yeah. All right. So we get the basis of what it's about. It was apparently somewhat solved, with NASA coming out literally how many years later? 65, 75, 75, 85, 85, 95, 95, 05. Yeah, 40 years later. Yeah, I'm one of those people that has to count on my hands because I'm stupid. I'm not good at math. All right. On the evening of December 9th, 1965, a large, brilliant fireball was seen in at least six. We already went over this. We already went over that too. Reports of the hot debris over Michigan and northern Ohio, grass fires, and sonic booms in the Pittsburgh metropolitan area were attributed to the fireball. Some people in the village of Kecksburg, about 30 miles southeast of Pittsburgh, reported wisps of blue smoke, vibrations, and a thump, and also that something from the sky had crashed in the woods. So, one thing that is really important to know is that anytime somebody sees something in the sky that can't easily be identified because it doesn't look like a plane, it doesn't look like a helicopter, it looks like it could be a star, but it's a little too colorful and bright to be a star, and it's moving, people lose their minds. Also, you have to remember, to you and I today, that's not a big deal. We see shit in the sky all the time, right? No big deal. Obviously, we have phones now. We can just take our phones out and record. But in 1965, if you see something in the sky and you can't identify it within 5 to 10 seconds, your mind starts racing, right? And if you're not a believer in UFOs or aliens, you're kind of like, do I want to go there? I kind of want to go there. But at the minute I step foot into that territory, there's no coming back. An early story in the Greensburg Tribune Review stated the following. The area where the object landed was immediately sealed off on order of the U.S. Army and state police officials, in anticipation of a close inspection of whatever had may fallen. State police officials there ordered the area roped off to await the expected arrival of both the U.S. Army, engineers, and possibly civilian scientists. Anytime something burning falls from the sky and lands on Earth, it needs to be inspected, regardless of whatever the hell might be going on in a civilian, normal person like us. Whatever's going on in our brains, experts need to be brought in, right? It's just basic procedure. When state troopers and Air Force personnel searched the woods, they found absolutely nothing. Of course they did. But did they really find nothing? Or did they find nothing? I can't wink. But yeah. A subsequent edition in the Tribune Review bore the headline, Searches Fail to Find Object. They said people saw something, some object flying into the sky and land and crash, but then they couldn't find it. Is that because the Air Force or the government took it before the state troopers and Air Force could find it? Authorities discounted proposed explanations such as a plane crash, errant missile test, or re-entering satellite debris, and generally assumed it to be a meteor. Okay. I can understand why all of those are absolutely possible. All of them. Because obviously, you can't tell a plane from a satellite, from a missile to a meteor if you're looking into the sky. So it could be any one of those things. That's 100% true. Astronomer Paul Annier said the fireball was likely to have been a meteor entering the Earth's atmosphere. Geophysicist George Weatherillo discounted speculations that it was debris from a satellite and agreed that the reports were probably due to a meteor. Okay, so it's a meteor. But where is it? Why wasn't it found? Because meteors do fall. It happens. Very rarely, but it happens. And if it's anything like the movie The Blob, stay away from it. Don't be like that old man. Don't do that. Don't be a hero. That man was not a hero, but he also wasn't a villain. That would be the meteor and the blob that was inside the meteor. Moving on. Astronomer William P. Beitelman and Fred Hess said it undoubtedly was a meteor bolide. Okay, so guys, we've established that it's a meteor. Can we move on? A spokesman for the Department of Defense in Washington said the first reports indicated the reported fireball was a natural phenomenon. I mean, does a meteor not classify itself as a? Is that not classified as a natural phenomenon? Okay. The February 1966 issue of Sky and Telescope reported that the fireball was seen over Detroit, Windsor area at about 4:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, received 23 reports from aircraft pilots starting at 4:44 p.m. A seismograph 25 miles southwest of Detroit recorded shock waves created by the fireball as it passed through the atmosphere. The Sky and Telescope article concluded that the path of the fireball extended roughly from northwest to southeast and ended in or near the western part of Lake Erie. Kind of ironic that it falls into Lake Erie. Big lake, big old meteor fireball. In 1967 article by two astronomers in the Journal of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, or the JRASC, that's not Jurassic, by the way, used a seismographic record to pinpoint the time of passage over the Detroit area at 4:43 p.m. In addition, they used photographs of the trail taken north at Detroit at two different locations to triangulate the trajectory of the object. Jesus Christ, try reading that 5 times fast. Basically, the seismographic, yeah, basically they're taking pictures of it to observe like where it was in the air, what it was doing. They concluded that the fireball was descending at a steep angle, moving from the southwest to the northeast. We just went over that. And likely impacted on the northwestern shore of Lake Erie near Windsor, Ontario. Okay. So we've established that it was a freaking fireball and that it was in between Detroit and Windsor, Ontario, and it landed in Lake Erie. Did Bigfoot step out? Did the blob step out? Probably not. Would you like to hear some NASA statements? I'm kind of intrigued here. Because remember, 40 years ago, NASA's like, we don't know what happened to the information we had. It was lost. Was it lost, or did you file it away immediately because you knew what it was and you didn't want to deal with it at the time because you weren't supposed to talk about those things at the time? In December 2005, remember, 40 freaking years later, just before the 40th anniversary of the Kecksburg incident, NASA released a statement reporting that experts had examined metallic fragments from the area and determined that they were from a Soviet satellite that re-entered the atmosphere and broke up. But records of their findings were lost in the 1980s. Okay, so there are at least how many reports did I just read? At least 3, that maybe 4, that stated it was obviously a meteor. And then 40 years later, here comes NASA to just ruin the fun. The Buzz Killington, right, walks in, and NASA's like, guys, you remember the Kecksburg incident from 1965? Yeah, of course we remember. There was actually a Russian Soviet satellite. What are you talking about? It was a meteor. There was a fireball. We seismographed it in the air. We triangulated it. That was a meteor. No, it was a Soviet satellite. And remember, one of the reports even stated that to confuse a satellite for a meteor was a bit like outlandish. I'm using my own term, but I don't know. I'm still on, I'm kind of like, you know what, NASA, you can take this this new report that you had and shove it somewhere. Shove it up one of your rockets and send it up into space to join that satellite that didn't come down. Leslie Kean, described as an investigative reporter backed by the Sci-Fi Channel. Hold on. Leslie Kean is the person I suppose that's being described right now. Leslie Kean, described as an investigative reporter backed by the Sci-Fi Channel, take that with a grain of salt or however you want to, reportedly sued NASA under the Freedom of Information Act for the lost NASA records. On October 26, 2007, NASA agreed to search for those records after being ordered by a court. During the hearing, Steve McConnell, NASA's public liaison officer, testified that 2 boxes of papers from the time of the Kecksburg incident were missing. Loss of records is not a unique case for NASA. For example, the original tapes recorded during the televised Apollo 11 moon landing were misplaced or reused. Do not get me down that road again. If you want my take on the moon landing, go back and watch one of my videos on Mystery Unsolved. It's one of the first 5 episodes I believe I do, and it is on the moon landing. But yeah, so basically, this woman is suing NASA, saying, "Hey, if you had these boxes of records, where are they?" And also, NASA's like, it's not uncommon for us to lose boxes of evidence. And then, of course, they're like, "Hey, you remember the moon landing?" Yes, of course we remember the moon landing. What's your point? We had boxes of information of that, and guess what? We just kind of lost it. Because it never happened. But that's another video for another time. On your own time, go watch that video. In 2008, space writer James Oberg suggested that NASA was unlikely to possess any such documents since, in his view, it was highly likely that the supposed NASA team that investigated the site were in fact Air Force personnel who identified themselves as NASA personnel. Oh, something regularly done by military personnel in civilian clothes during the 1960s. I'm just going to leave that one right there. I'm going to let that simmer for a little bit. Remember I told you how people freaked out? And at the beginning of this video, I said that people in the 60s, whenever they saw something in the sky, they took it 100%. They gripped onto it for dear life, and they're like, I can't explain it. What I didn't explain to you was that also in the 60s, the government and the Air Force were shady as fuck. Pardon my French. They knew damn well what was going on in the sky. And they were just kind of like, you know what? It was a weather balloon. Remember that? You're gonna be hearing a lot about weather balloons in the Mystery Blue Book series. And most of the time that you hear me refer to a weather balloon, it's not a freaking weather balloon. But basically a weather balloon and this type of activity done by the Air Force was a smokescreen to cloud what was really happening. In fact, Mystery Blue Book, I took the name from Project Blue Book, which was J. Allen Hynek was a scientist, and he was assigned by the military to look into UFO cases. And a lot of times, his findings were kind of sort of inconclusive in the sense that they didn't know what he was pretty much pointing to it possibly being extraterrestrial or UFO origins. To which the military and the Air Force was like, yeah, it was actually a weather balloon, or they tried to give him some bullshit story to pass through the media so that we wouldn't know the truth as a society. He further suggested that Keene's action was no more than a publicity stunt for the benefit of Keene's employers. I don't know. I buy that. I absolutely believe that. The Air Force is like, we're NASA. According to John Venture of MUFON, the Mutual Unidentified Flying Object Network, and Shaft and native Owen Eichler, their recent investigations have led them to speculate that the object reportedly landed in Kecksburg was a General Electric Mark II re-entry vehicle that had been launched by the Air Force as a spy satellite, but fell out of orbit. However, we need confirmation from NASA or the Air Force, which you're not getting. However, if you can see it, I will show you a picture of it. It looks like, I'll just try to see if I can show it. It's round. Like it looks like a motor. It's circular. So it definitely looks like it could resemble a meteor rock. Absolutely. I would buy this for the simple fact that if it's not a meteor, but then NASA's like, oh no, it's a satellite. NASA was pretty much saying the truth. Guys, it was actually a satellite. But we lost the paperwork. So NASA's kind of like bullshitting you, but telling you the truth at the same time. Guys, it was a satellite, but we lost the paperwork. And then this guy, Owen Eichler and John Ventre, are like, we need confirmation from NASA or the Air Force. Well, you pretty much got it, guys, because NASA's like, we had paperwork on it. But did you really have paperwork? Or did you conveniently lose it? You see what I mean? Big mess. There is some speculation that the re-entry of the Cosmos 96 Venera type spacecraft was responsible for the fireball which was seen over the southwestern Ontario. In at least 8 states from Michigan to New York on December 9, 1965. Investigations of photographs and sightings of the fireball indicated its path through the atmosphere was probably too steep to be consistent with a spacecraft re-entering from the Earth orbit, and was more likely a meteor in prograde orbit from the vicinity of the asteroid belt, and probably ended its flight over western Lake Erie. The U.S. Air Force tracking data on the Cosmos 96 also indicate the spacecraft orbited decayed earlier on December 9th. Other analysis of the spacecraft orbit definitively indicate it could not have been Cosmos 96. Some unconfirmed reports state the fireball subsequently landed in Pennsylvania southeast of Pittsburgh near the town of Kecksburg at 4:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, a lot of back and forth, big smoke screen, a lot of confusion. What was it? I'm a firm believer that it's one of two things. At first, I didn't want to believe that it was a satellite. I think it was a meteor. But if it was a meteor, why would the government and the military and the Air Force cover it up, right? Why would they do that? It's space debris. Unless something came out of it, which by all means, then yeah. But I don't think anything came out of the damn meteor. So why would they cover it up? Unless, of course, it was a satellite. Became a bunch of hoopla and hysteria about like, oh my god, it's a meteor, it's something otherworldly. And to cover their tracks, NASA and the U.S. Air Force and the government were all like, you know what, NASA, you're gonna lose the paperwork. Make up a reason why you lost it. U.S. Air Force, you're gonna dress up as NASA and bullshit the public. And we're just going to throw this all under the rug and confuse people by pretty much going back and forth and giving you data as to what we think it is. We think it's a meteor. We think it was one of our satellites. We'll leave it to you to figure out which one you believe. Okay. So that concludes the first episode of Mystery Blue Book. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to give me your thoughts on what you think the Kecksburg UFO was, meteor, satellite, maybe something else that we didn't discuss here today, do let me know in the comments below. Also, Be sure to give me a like if you haven't already and subscribe. It'll be much appreciated. I do know some people watch this. But yeah, do stay tuned for next week's episode, which I hope I will do. I've been prolonging this series debut for so long, and I apologize. I've just had a lot on my plate, trying to write a book and all that, and get everything, figured out. So do stay tuned for the next episode of Mystery Blue Book, where I will be discussing Betty and Barney Hill, which, of course, if you're a UFO nut like I am, you have to talk about Betty and Barney Hill because it is a strange and bizarre case if there ever was one. For Mystery Blue Book, this is Justin Bienvenue. Have a good rest of your day.